lavishtalks.com. The conversation continues. Will you be part of it?
Yeah, man.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Top 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Today is February 19th. This day in 1940, legendary singer, songwriter, and Motown producer William Smokey Robinson was born in Detroit. In 1942, the 100th Fighter Squadron was activated at Tuskegee Army Airfield, Alabama, marking a crucial step for African Americans in the military. 1942, the Tuskegee Airmen took flight. In 1992, director John Singleton became the first African American nominated for the Academy Award for Best Director for his debut film, Boys in the Hood. Other historical events, including this date, in 1864, during the Civil War, Union forces were defeated at the Battle of Olustee in Florida, a battle that included 3 black regiments. In 1919, Pan-African Congress, W.E.B. Du Bois, organized the first Pan-African Congress in Paris to address colonial rule and global racial injustice. All of that occurred on this date, February 19th, in Black History. Black History is all day long and simply every February. I have some news on the memorial services, the remembrances of Jesse Jackson. A week from today, visitation will likely begin at the Rainbow Push Coalition in the city of Chicago. That visitation will likely go 24 hours around the clock on Thursday, Friday, and quite possibly Saturday. Plans are underway as I presently understand it. Again, not yet confirmed, but you will be able to confirm them on the Rainbow Push Coalition website and or in a release, either by video or by press, from my brother Yusuf Jackson, who's doing a wonderful job at the organization, for the Reverend Jesse Jackson to lie in state in his home state of South Carolina initially. And that honor is one that we take very, very seriously. Don't forget, South Carolina is the first state to fire a shot at Fort Sumter that commenced the American Civil War over the question of slavery. It has had a very, very difficult and historically segregated past. It even has remnants, even to this day, of some deeply troubling racial relations. But over time, the state is definitely progressing. Just last weekend, and growth in and of itself is changing the dynamics of the culture of Greenville, South Carolina. The state is making progress, and I'm particularly proud of that. They want to honor the Reverend Jesse Jackson in the state capitol sometime next week. Also, the opportunity and the possibility of Reverend Jesse Jackson being in the capital of the United States for honor, lying in state in the rotunda of the capital of the United States is also being discussed. And so we have a schedule that's changing, and I'm certainly appreciative of the fact that all of you who have been praying for my family and for our father, that Reverend Jesse Jackson is getting the just recognition from the United States and his contribution that he truly, truly, truly deserves. I ask you to be patient with our family while we work through these very difficult plans that include, a lot of participation and a lot of very opinionated people. In this hour, this is Thought-Provoking Thursdays. Our very special guest is none other than Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm so delighted to be here and grateful that we can have this conversation at this really challenging time, I'm sure, for you and your family. And you are, of course, all in our thoughts and prayers, my friend.
Johnny, I appreciate that very much. Johnny, I've learned so much about Martin Luther King Jr. From you in our interrogation that we engage in weekly. But very seldom do we delve, if you will, into the men and the women in Dr. King's space. For better or for worse, these men, these women challenged Dr. King from some of his more uncomfortable conservative theological leanings to seeing the condition of our people anew. These magnificent speeches and written orations and prose written by Martin Luther King Jr. are widely and wildly influenced by other people. I'd like over the course of the next hour to hear from you and your thoughts on the influences in Dr. King's life and what the impact of men and women who were fairly close to him had. Johnny, your thoughts generally on the subject matter?
Well, yeah, generally, yes. And I hope specifically as well, Jesse, because I think that in many ways, the time made King who he was. I've heard people say, and I agree with that it's not so much that King made the time, but the time made King.
Mm.
But I think it's also true that King, in large measure, was who he was because of the people whom he surrounded himself with, including your dad. The impact that we have on each other's lives cannot be overlooked, and particularly in times of great challenge and great opportunity, which King and your dad found themselves in just barely a decade apart, I think, in age, maybe a bit more than that. And I think that, clearly your father, Jesse Jackson Sr., had a profound impact on King's life as King's life had a profound impact on his. But that's true of so many others. Of course, Ambassador Andrew Young, who is still with us. There's a whole legion of names of men and women who rose to the occasion at that time, in addition to your father and generally speaking, once again, Andrew Young, to Dorothy Cotton and Walter Fauntleroy and James Bevel, and I can go on and on and on. Hosea Williams and Ralph Abernathy.
We're definitely going to examine some of these names when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is Thought Provoking Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and we are in the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. More when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
What's up? What's up? What's up? You got to laugh the pain away.
Hey, KBLA delegation, happy Black History Month. Around here, we celebrate our culture, our community, and our contributions daily. But this year, as we observe the 100th anniversary of Black History Month celebrations, we're excited about our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, honoring comedy greats. On Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum in downtown LA, we're toasting D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Munell, Dion Cole, and Martin Lawrence with a surprise guest appearance. A limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon remain, so now would be a good time to head to KBLA1580.com to secure one for yourself. That's KBLA1580.com. A little laughter goes a long way, especially in times like these. So come, join us for our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. Again, tickets are available right now at KBLA1580.com.
Well, I hang around my boy. He's been married for 6 years. Videotaped his wedding day, never watched it.
Now and every day he watch it every day, but he watch it in reverse. Because he said he loves seeing himself take that ring back off of that finger. Walking back down that aisle, just waving at her ugly mother down the church, getting back in the limo, back at the bachelor party. Look how happy I was.
KBLA Talk 1580 thanks LA City Council members Curran D. Price Jr. and Heather Hutt for being the presenting sponsors at this year's Black History Month luncheon. Honoring excellence, resilience, and achievement, we're at KBLA Talk 1580.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra Strong. Your booty past the clean test. Salmon weave texture, it's the best. Study up, teach a lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin Ultra Strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
KBLA.
Welcome Thursdays and the World House with Johnny Mack on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Johnny, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you, Jesse.
Johnny, let me take you through a little bit of an exercise here. During the break, I was saying to myself, what are the influences? Who are the influences when 25-year-old Jesse Jackson in 1965, and of course, Dr. King is assassinated 3 years later in 1968. So we're talking 28-year-old Jesse Jackson. I'm saying to myself, who are the influences inside of the mind of Martin Luther King Jr. at the hour that my father meets him? His thought was shaped by a blend of Christian theology, social philosophy, nonviolent theory, drawing heavily on figures like Mohandas K. Gandhi, Howard Thurman, Benjamin Mays, and Reinhold Niebuhr. His writings also reflected the influence of theologians like Paul Tillich, philosophers like Hegel and Thoreau, and personalist thinkers at Boston University. Key scholars and thinkers influencing King included Gandhi, who provided the core framework for nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience. Benjamin Mays served as a mentor and intellectual father, shaping King's view of theology and social issues. Howard Thurman influenced King with his focus on the intersection of spirituality and social action, as well as nonviolent philosophy. Reinhold Niebuhr provided a more realistic view of power dynamics, influencing King's understanding of social sin and the need for justice. Henry David Thoreau inspired King's ideas on civil disobedience and refusing to cooperate with evil systems. George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel influenced King with his dialectical method and philosophy of history, where the truth is found neither in the thesis nor the antithesis, but in the emergent synthesis, which reconciles the two. King cited Paul Tillich on sin as separation and drew upon philosophers at Boston University, including Edgar Brightman, L. Harold DeWolf, who emphasized a personal God of love and justice. Augustine and Thomas Aquinas formed the basis of King's theological argument against unjust laws. And I'm saying to myself at age 25, when Dad meets Dr. King, Dad isn't thinking quite like that. Dr. King is a heavily influenced thinker, just 3 years before his death. And so Dad would be somewhat of a disciple, but he would be very junior in the development of the various influences intellectually on where King was going at that hour. Dr. King, however, saw something in Jesse Jackson. When I think about Young, and I think about Hosea Williams, and I think about the only other mind that might have had these influences in them that were close to Martin Luther King Jr. would have been James Bevel. I knew Dr. Bevel very well, whose mind was so sharp and so amazing that it literally bordered on the sane and the insane. The question of Dr. Bevel's sanity would haunt him all his days, including the days of his incarceration for crimes that I don't want to particularly delineate or speak of. But you think about Fred Shuttlesworth, you think about Otis Moss Jr., you think about many of these Morehouse men who came south, who C.T. Vivian, who had very well designed, James Lawson, philosophical insights that were tied to making the practice of scholarship real on the ground of Negro's dilemma. And my father would be really like a student who's invited into this circle of Black scholars with tremendous energy, handsome, but young, seminary student who would later be charged to go to Chicago and work on economic development, a very critical arm of funding the organization, to which Jackson accepted that mission and inherited a great deal of legacy from these processes. Dr. Mack.
You know, Jesse, just listening to you enumerate that pantheon of young leaders of that time is just quite incredible. That your dad would grow up with as peers or as proteges of such men is really quite something. That time produced some real giants. I don't know that such giants are being produced today or not. I'll let others, historians, I guess, decide that. But you are right. You list a dozen and a half, perhaps, men and women, mostly men because of the time, but there were, and I think you did mention Dorothy Cotton, for example.
Absolutely.
She held her own, Jesse, in that cadre of.
And Dorothy Height.
And Dorothy Height, yes.
National Council of Negro Women.
There's so many more to mention, but the time produced such persons, including your dad. But it's not just the time. Keep in mind, Jesse, that one has to respond to the time. And people like Jesse Jackson Sr. responded. They heard the clarion call and they put themselves out. They took chances. They took risks. They gave blood, sweat, and tears. Many gave their lives, literally, in terms of a shortened lifespan. Others gave their lives with longevity. And I think your dad certainly is in that class.
When I was thinking about, the likes of Pauli Murray at a lawyer at Howard University, and you think about Thurgood Marshall and that, if you will, that group of thinkers in the legal context, to help shame and shape the movement of constitutionalizing our struggle was also part of that work. There was the activist side of this, but there was also the legal interpretive side, obviously, that laid the foundation for Brown versus the Board of Education, by which activists like Dr. King, Jesse Jackson, Shuttlesworth, and many men that and women that I've mentioned before, could then take advantage of a new interpretation by fighting and pushing Congress to do right by people with the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act of 65, and subsequent legislation leading all the way up to Americans with disability, equal pay for equal work, raising the minimum wage. All of those, from my perspective, are extensions of the Civil Rights Act so that people can live with decency in the United States and in our country. Johnny, I am still struck, however, by to be in the presence of the King himself, to look up to someone who, was 36 years old at the hour that Dr. King met my dad, and obviously 39 when he was tragically assassinated. To have the wealth of knowledge and experience that Dr. King had, that the men and women, including the lady, Johnny, who was just awarded a statue in Atlanta, Georgia, on the main street there, who worked, I think, for CNN and Ted Turner.
Oh.
His secretary who walked into the office.
Clayton.
Clayton. That's right. When I think about, who these people ultimately became,
yes,
the shadow of the King
mm-hmm.
it speaks volumes about what our previous guest said about planting a seed,
yes,
to see a shade for a tree that they essentially will not live to see grow.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Dr. King did. He planted a seed for a shade tree to grow that others might live in it.
Yeah, that's a wonderful metaphor. And that tree also produced fruit, Jesse. Let's keep that in mind. And that fruit produced additional seeds, right? Mm-hmm. And I hope that we can say that some of us who find ourselves with the challenge of these times reflect that that continuing gift of the seeds that were originally planted by King. So you were breaking up a bit, maybe on my side, Jesse, so I didn't get all of your comment.
Well, I can tell you this. I was trying to think the names are Nona Clayton, who's probably going to read me the riot act for not being just speak her. So Nona Clayton, there's a famous video of Miss Clayton walking into Dr. King on his last birthday. And she's such an amazing lady. I mean, class and distinction, who I believe is in her 90s now, but is as clear as a teacher has ever taught, but close confidence of Martin Luther King Jr. as his executive assistant during those years, and how grateful we are for her life and the service that she continues to render to our community as well. Johnny, these men and women around Dr. King is where I've been trying to put our focus, because it was a master class to be in his presence, not just a philosophical exercise, moving them from the, if you will, the abstract philosophy of piecing together a methodology for which to address evil in our midst. But it was an experiment. He was practicing with men and women around them to test a new way that he wanted to become, as you say, a revolution of values.
Yeah. And, there were other women, just before we pick up on your point, there's like wrecking my brain a bit to think through them. There was Diane Nash out of Nashville, and Fannie Lou Hamer in Mississippi, Satima Clark. Don't recall exactly where she was from. There was Ella Baker.
Mhm.
So there are so many women and men, and
Eddie Wyatt and Reverend Willie Taplin Barrow.
Yes,
all of these people are very serious people, man.
Yeah.
Labor.
They were indeed, and so we're faced today with the challenge of holding on to the gains that these women and men gave their lives for in so many different ways. And as we stand on their shoulders and are challenged by the example that they gave, it really says a lot. That sounds like such a trite statement. It's an understatement, but it says so much about what we must now do in order to continue this great movement toward peace and justice, doesn't it, Jesse? In this moment in your life, in your family's life, but in the life of our nation and of our world, gives us a opportunity to reflect.
It certainly does. And Johnny, I'm thinking in this moment, I know that we're coming forward at just a moment, that the magnanimity of Martin Luther King Jr.'s spirit to be training and teaching men who for 5 and 6 decades and women who would still be at the forefront of the struggle. I can name a half a dozen or a dozen men, including Reverend Al Sharpton, who in my father's space are still moving forward, and Reverend William Barber, and many of them who you will see, Michael Eric Dyson, to some degree Cornel West, and obviously Tavis Smiley. They're all part of a cadre, Roland Martin, a cadre of fearless people who got something to say. And they come in the tradition, believe me when I tell you, of Jesse Jackson. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show with Dr. Johnny Mack.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump convened the first meeting of the Board of Peace in Washington, D.C., calling it one of his most important initiatives.
So today is a tremendous honor to welcome you all to the United States Institute of Peace.
The group, with representatives from at least 20 countries, will focus on rebuilding Gaza and ending wars, though several nations declined to join. President Trump marked the 100th anniversary of Black History Month at the White House, honoring Reverend Jesse Jackson and the contributions of Black Americans. Meanwhile, a new lawsuit accuses his administration of censoring civil rights and slavery exhibits at national parks as a review of museum displays continues. And it appears Black Hornet star LaMelo Ball was not seriously injured in a crash in Charlotte, North Carolina. Witnesses say his custom Hummer collided with a Kia. Medics say one person suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Hi, I'm Angie. Did you know a billboard can save a baby's life? It's true. You can make a difference by helping us spread the pro-life message to reach those who are struggling with an unplanned pregnancy. Please make a gift today. Visit prolifeacrossamerica.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The MVP for the Lakers in the second half of the season could be their trainer, Dr. Vanessa Brooks. If the Lakers can stay healthy, they should be a contender for one of the top 4 playoff spots in the Western Conference. At the moment, the Lakers are 5th. The main issue for the Lakers is that their best 3 players, LeBron, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves, played only 10 games together in the first half of the season. This is why Brooks is so important. She and her staff have a tough challenge to keep LeBron, Doncic, and Reeves in the lineup as much as possible. Brooks is in her second season with the Lakers. She's the first African-American woman to serve as the Lakers head trainer. She also is the first African-American woman in the NBA that is certified as an athletic trainer and physical therapist. If players are getting their normal minutes on the court, Brooks might be the reason. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic tax relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the Southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Thought Provoking Thursdays. We're in the World House with none other than Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me, Jesse.
Johnny is one of the most creative social entrepreneurs that I know. He is a scholar practitioner with expertise in subject matter areas of peace, conflict, social change, and movements. He's traveled broadly and extensively throughout the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, working in the fields of peace, development, conflict, and nonviolent social change. Dr. Mack's seminal work, After Confrontation, Then What? Challenges the putative logic of nonviolent social theory and practice. Particularly, he rearticulates nonviolence beyond the traditional understanding of nonviolent struggle as principally nonviolent resistance. He has studied the work of Martin Luther King Jr. extensively, and he's our very special guest in this hour. Dr. Mack, welcome forward.
Always good, sir. Thank you so much.
So let me try and set this up for you as best I possibly can. Imagine a philosopher king or a president with a cabinet.
Hmm.
And in that cabinet is Andrew Young, Ralph Abernathy. Maybe Ralph Abernathy is the vice president of the United States. In that cabinet is Zernona Clayton. In that cabinet is Fred Shuttlesworth and James Bevel. But he's the president. He is this director at age 35, by the way, the legal age to become president of the United States. From my perspective, clearly sharper than the Kennedy boys and Johnson and all of them. So it's just hard for me to imagine that Dr. King's non-violent campaigns, the campaign against the war in Vietnam, could not have at some point in time led to what? A presidential campaign. I believe that with the core of who I am, in which he was conducting himself throughout these movements. There was certainly an appeal that Martin Luther King Jr. would have had to a broad cross-section of voters, an early rainbow coalition, if you will. But check this out. I'm thinking also hub and spoke, like a wheel. Here's Dr. King in the center of it, and he has a task for Andy Young. He has a task for Jesse Jackson. He has a task for Ralph Abernathy. He has a task for Joe Lowery. No one's task is the same. No one who works for the king is wrong, but each has a different assignment from the king, with no one's assignment being identical to anyone else's assignment. Johnny, am I wrong in that organizational layout of the universe around Martin Luther King Jr.?
No, of course not. The story is legend now. He assembled an incredible group, an incredible cadre of young talent, and the emphasis there, for the most part, perhaps Abernathy would be the exception, but for the most part, these were very young and brilliant people who had, as we said earlier, dedicated their lives. And King was the president, and they, as you've named them, were his cabinet. And the way they executed their service in examining the social structure and looking for ways to improve the quality of life of citizens, people of color particularly, it's just amazing, Jesse.
I don't think I've ever seen a social justice organization that has assembled a cast of characters quite like that.
No.
I mean, the modern leadership doesn't assemble a cabinet quite like that. Am I right, Johnny?
I don't know of one, whether it's the formal one that was duly elected that we have leading our nation today, or informal cabinets in social movements around the nation and the globe. No, and there's none that I can think of that with the kind of leadership that we witnessed in the mid-20th century, with King as its titular head. And again, Jesse, the time birthed these individuals, but each of them rose to the occasion. Each of them had to make a conscious decision that they would give their lives, their efforts to the struggle. That in itself is quite remarkable. We celebrate their work today, but in medias res, as the Latins would say, in the middle of things, not thinking of what came before or what would come after. They were simply acting out of their own volition to be part of a movement that would not only change this nation, but would change the world. It's quite remarkable.
I think in this moment that Martin Luther King Jr. had to have the kind of thinking, and I've tried to implore it in positions where I've had the capacity to have, if you will, a staff, to hire people who were more intelligent than myself, to welcome the debate, the internal debate, to welcome the conversation is a very, very unique leader. To have a command, of course, of solid foundation in that which Dr. King had a solid foundation in, but he wasn't afraid of the internal conversation because it made him better. I think that some of us are insecure in the area of actually welcoming that dissent. In fact, in Israel, there's something called the 10th man rule. It's when, and I think it comes out of the Yom Kippur War, where 9 people essentially agree on this should be our direction, but they're looking for the 10th man, and the real goal is to pay attention to the 10th man, because this is the person who is thinking so far out the box about what could happen that the majority has ignored, and it really is our vulnerability. So if Dr. King had any kind of 10th man rule, he was open to the idea of what the majority around him had to say. But at the same time, he was paying attention, if you will, to the stranger, the dissenter, the person on the outside, because this person may represent a point of view that the entire groupthink doesn't see. And by thinking that way, you plan for possibilities and or inevitabilities, contingency plans in the event that the groupthink does not go correct. Does that strike you as the kind of operational thinking of Martin Luther King Jr.?
I can certainly subscribe to that explanation. Books have been written, of course, about his leadership, for sure. But, King had his weaknesses, as we all do. He had his own doubts. He wrote about them, his challenges in life. One thing we should be careful to mention, as we mentioned the women who were part of that movement and that time, is Coretta Scott King herself.
Yes. Yes.
She anchored in so many ways Martin Luther King. I had the privilege, as you know, of working with her at the King Center and witnessed firsthand her own leadership and what she brought to the movement, and of course to her husband's life experience, cannot be underestimated in terms of his leadership.
In this moment, I can only imagine that Dr. King couldn't get out of the house without a thoughtful discussion. It's impossible to ignore. And Reverend Dr. Bernice King, has brought her mother's point of view and contribution to the movement to the forefront in such a powerful way, to which she is to be absolutely congratulated. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to The World House with Johnny Mack. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return, but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's no championship league for small business owners, but if there was, you'd be at the top of the standings. Because going pro with Lenovo Pro means you've got the winning formation, one-on-one advice, IT solutions, and customized hardware powered by Intel Core Ultra processors help you stay ahead of the competition. Business goes pro with Lenovo Pro. Sign up for free at lenovo.com/pro.
Lenovo. Ron had a tax problem he just couldn't handle on his own.
I owed the IRS taxes for over 5 years, but I didn't have any money to pay the taxes.
Those years cost him dearly.
Most of it was fees and interest. It was horrible.
Ron finally called in the pros.
I called Optima Tax Relief. And boy, am I happy I did.
The leading tax resolution firm, Optima, is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They've resolved over $1 billion for their clients. Ron was overjoyed.
They settled my account with IRS. I was ecstatic. They are a lifesaver. They are. I am so happy.
Take Ron's advice and call Optima now for a free consultation.
Yeah, don't do like I did and wait. Call Optima Tax Relief. Do it now. You'll be ecstatic like me.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. 10 Toes In serves as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program. They support, educate, and empower couples during and after incarceration. They assist male returning citizens to re-enter society successfully and to help them maintain a healthy relationship with their romantic partner. They offer a mentorship support group for formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In teaches its Intimate Relationships 101 curriculum at male prisons throughout the state of California. They host sister support group meetings for women who are intimately involved with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To access their services or make a donation, please visit them online at 10toesin.org or find them on Facebook or Instagram. They are healing lives through relationships. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are still commemorating Black History Month and celebrating it and the passing of a significant icon in the history of African Americans, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, my father. Our very special guest on the World House is and always will be Dr. Johnny Mack. Dr. Mack's research includes extensive study of Martin Luther King Jr.'s logic of nonviolence and the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. He explicates Dr. King's logic of nonviolence using King's call to restructure the social edifice, and particularly its triple evils of poverty, racism, militarism, with a revolution of values that is effected through peaceable powers. Let me ask you this question, Johnny. In your study and in your research, these triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism, have the disciples of Dr. King done a good job of following up on that?
Well, depends upon how we define as King's disciples, for sure.
Okay. Uh-oh.
So I think that there's much work to be done, Jesse. Okay. I do strongly believe that we as a people have not carefully followed King's admonition to explore these values and to find nonviolent methods and means of making them the basis of the social edifice. And that was King's vision of the World House, that the house would be built upon a fundamental framework of values of dignity and liberty and community. And I think all of us have failed in some regard in following that admonition.
You know what I find interesting? I think, and I can say this, I'm trying to be as objective as I can, and maybe that's part of my problem. My objectivity may be subjective. I think my dad did a pretty good job of fighting racism, poverty, and militarism. He knew where the money went. He ran for president. So I give him that credit. Organizationally, the Rainbow Coalition, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that its focus is militarism. It does fight racism. It does fight poverty. I can say the same thing, though, about the NAACP, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, all of our organizations. I think Reverend Sharpton does, he understands the triple evils, but is that the mission of the NAN? And I'm not criticizing any organization as much as I'm saying that the leaders themselves may be crystal clear ideologically on where King was, to the point that, yes, these are the things they follow, but the institutions that have boards of directors and have that keep the institutions themselves going that we find, Johnny, I'm not sure that they are as narrowly focused as your organization, which I'm going to ask you right now to tell us how we can support you, because we are narrowly focused on poverty, racism, and militarism. Johnny, how can we support your organization?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question, and I thought you were going to follow up with asking me to respond to. Anyway, the World House Project, Jesse, the worldhouseproject.org is our URL, our website. There you can find out about our work, and you can make a contribution. You can donate, make a tax-exempt donation to our work, which is global. And thank you for asking.
Johnny, is it possible, though? I think I'm raising the next question. Is it, to be true to Dr. King and these triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism, is it possible to build an organization with that as the focus? I know the leaders identify with it. They agree with Dr. King. But institutionally, when we're supported by organized labor or corporate contributions or even our regular, followers, we respond in real time to Trayvon Martin and to George Floyd. But those seem to be more symptoms of the problem than getting to the root that Dr. King was talking about.
Well, of course, it's possible. Anything is possible if we decide, and remember that the structure we have today, the organizations we have today, didn't happen by themselves. They were decisions that are made by people like you and me, ordinary citizens. And so, what do we decide will be the values that will determine, inform, and instruct the work of our organizations? I learned early, Jesse, in my career, that organizations, you've probably heard this before, organizations assume the personality of their leadership. And so, what does the leader embrace, right? And as goes the leader, arguably, so goes the organization.
I see democratic organizations all across this country with, great African-American elected officials who are heading them. But I don't see these organizations as committed to fighting poverty, racism, and militarism. That might be a local Democratic Party organization. It might be a congressional organization. It might be a state representative organization. But is it committed to fighting poverty, racism, and militarism? And when you get to the heart of what Dr. King said, we end up fighting as Democrats to elect Democrats. But just because we elect Democrats, does that mean we're fighting poverty, racism, and militarism? And it does not necessarily mean that, because the narrow focus of King is poverty, racism, and militarism. And so until we are prepared to sharpen the pencil, to get rid of some of the bad, every time you sharpen a pencil, my dad told me, you get rid of some good wood and some bad wood. Jesse Jackson quote right here. But as long as you get to the point, that's the whole point of the matter. To sharpen the pencil, you get rid of some good wood and some bad wood.
Yeah.
Long as you get to the point. Johnny, we have about 2 minutes before we come forward. Can you offer a word of hope on the kind of hope that Jesse Jackson brought to our world?
Well, you know, this one is so easy because your dad had perhaps the most meaningful quote about hope, and that's keeping it alive, right? And though we mourn his passing, he admonished us in ways that King admonished us to keep hope alive. And it is in his spirit, it is in his commitment to that idea that we have the audacity to keep hope alive. And I believe that in each and every one of us, we can keep hope alive.
And if we don't, hope simply dies.
It dies.
It simply remains on the cross.
Yes.
And so the idea of hope resurrected is a big deal. It is a big deal in our spirits. It is a big deal in our spirit energy. It is a big deal in the glue that holds the nation together and our most fundamental values. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Johnny, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for celebrating my dad's life with me.
My pleasure.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward right here on KBLA tomorrow, Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Until then, I'll see you later.